Hi, and nice meditation, I think. Thank you for coming today. Today being January 2nd. It's the new year, and for some reason nobody looks hungover. I don't understand that. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the basically sum up what we've been talking about the last 3 or 4 sessions, well, 2 or 3 sessions, and that was changing destiny. And what we're doing in 2016 is we're going in a new direction, kind of. And for the last 2 years, we've been addressing Buddhism, Dharma, and human issues almost exclusively from the point of view of the Pali canon, the Theravada traditions, scripture, which is the foundation of all Buddhist scripture. So we can't get away from it, but I wanted to make sure that we got in all the fundamentals, all the cool stuff that we find in the Pali Canon, and we've pretty much gone through maybe 2.5 of the original 4 Nikayas, the discourses, the collected works of the Buddha, the collected teachings, basically. This year we're going to approach it from the point of view of the Lotus Sutra. After all, I am a Tendai guy, so I ought to be talking a lot about the Lotus Sutra since it's the foundational teaching of Tiantai, which became Tendai in Japan. And the sutra presupposes that we already have a foundation in the agamas. The agamas are the Chinese expression for the Nikayas. So there's a supposition that we already know basically what the historical Buddha actually taught. Now we're going to get into expansions of the ideas, a little more poetic, a little more philosophical, a little less earthy, a little more mystical. But it deals with life of a human being in essentially the same way the Pali Canon does, but it puts a slightly different spin on it. It deals with the grandeur of humanity and understands that underneath that grandeur there's a foundation of dukkha, that dukkha is there. And given that humanity is such a wonderful entity, why would there be all this suffering and misery? So this is one of the things that the Lotus Sutra approaches. It's one of the things that is addressed. And it's addressed by presenting some very, very important issues in Buddhism. One is that it really harps on an idea called a trikaya, that is the 3 bodies, the 3 Buddha bodies, and which caused some difficulty later on in Buddhism, particularly Japanese Buddhism, because Japanese love to analyze. And so this was important in the Lotus Sutra. What is important about this is that for Zhi Yi, the founder of Tiantai, because there are 3 Buddha bodies, there's the earthly body, the Rupakaya, the Nirmanakaya, which is the enjoyment bliss body, and then the Dharmakaya, which is the body of truth and reality, Shakyamuni Buddha becomes transformed from a historical figure into a cosmic figure. This means that the Buddha becomes Buddha. The particular Buddha becomes something universal. Buddha becomes not just an individual, but a condition. And that condition can manifest in a bazillion different ways. And because it can manifest in a bazillion different ways, we have a bazillion different kinds of cosmic Buddhas or universal Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, which all manifest in a kind of a mystical way, but also manifest in this reality as well. Now, later on, a fellow named Nichiren, that probably never intended Soka Gakkai to come into existence, but that's part of it, of the Nichiren tradition, developed the idea that, because of these three realms, that means that the historical Shakyamuni Buddha is the culmination of all other Buddhas, and all other Buddhas are Shakyamuni Buddha. So Ji Yi said Shakyamuni Buddha is a manifestation of all other Buddhas. Nichiren says all other Buddhas are a manifestation of Shakyamuni. Is your glass half full or is it half empty? So basically they're saying the same thing, but they're saying it from opposite ends of the coin. Now, another thing that the Lotus Sutra is very, very adamant about, and I'm going to have to refer to my notes because I just had my birthday, and memory got shot on Christmas Day for some reason. But the Lotus Sutra's main points is that there is one path, only one path. We don't have to talk about Shravakayana, we don't have to talk about the self-enlightened Buddha, Pacceka Buddha, or Pratyeka Buddha. We don't have to talk about bodhisattvas necessarily. We don't have to discuss these as three separate individual paths toward enlightenment, because there's only one path, and that path is Buddhahood itself. Where does Buddhahood reside? Buddhahood resides in the individual. How do we know that? Because when the Buddha, the historical Buddha, was alive and teaching, he described the universe, the cosmos, the world, as being inhabited in this corpse and the six senses that attend to it. So if Buddhahood exists, then it must necessarily exist here. It can't exist anyplace else. So this is another important factor in the Lotus Sutra, and it was the central point of Ji Yi's teaching and the central point of Tendai. Now, Ji Yi did not found the Tiantai school of Buddhism. He was the fourth patriarch. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. He was the fourth patriarch. He wasn't the first. Others came before him. Nagarjuna is one of the patriarchs of Tiantai, as well as being a patriarch of Pure Land. And that's kind of how Pure Land got involved in Tiantai, and why Pure Land Buddhism is so fundamentally important to, do we just have an earthquake? so fundamentally important to Tiantai. And then the third aspect of the Lotus Sutra that's very, very important to us is the concept of upaya, skillful means. Skillful means is the term that we generally use, and what we are talking about are meaningful devices. What makes a person learn? What can we give to a person as far as a way of teaching is concerned that will cause them to get it? Where they have this Kensho moment of enlightenment when they go, oh yeah, that's the way it is. What can we do? This is the meaningful device. This doesn't mean we lie to a person. This doesn't mean that we go down to the lowest common denominator in a group. This is an individual type of a teaching where if the group is not going to get the concept of emptiness in an emptiness meditation, then let's talk to the group about emptiness in terms that they can understand. How about interdependence as opposed to interconnectedness? I heard some guy talk about interconnectedness the other day, and the only thing that could come up to in my mind was, wow, that's a drag. Because if we're all interconnected, that means anything you do affects me. Well, this were true. If you got diarrhea, we'd all be on the toilet. That's not what it means. It means that we affect others. We give influence to others in that psychological realm. But more importantly, interdependence has to do with the psychological process. That's the most important thing that interdependence does. But interdependence also says is that on some sort of atomic level, we are all one. Which is true. And these were ideas that came up 2,500 years ago, and quantum physics with their idea of string theory, with the idea of the holographic universe, with the idea of quantum entanglement, just continue to demonstrate the Buddha was right in these aspects. So, upaya actually refers to the idea that these three vehicles, the vehicle or the path of the disciple follower, the path, the vehicle of the self-enlightened individual, the vehicle, the path of the bodhisattva, are all skillful means for the individual, because that's where the individual is at the time that they're practicing, at the time that they're entering the stream. But at the same time, just to get into the stream, you have to let go of three things. We have to let go of the sense of self-identity, where we take things personally. I identify with my job. I identify with my rakusu. I identify with the Buddha. I identify with this. I identify with that. If I'm married, I identify with my wife. If I've got a girlfriend, I identify with my girlfriend. If I've got a wife and a girlfriend, then I'm having a hell of a time getting through life. Who's got that kind of energy? If I am identified with my job, then at the moment that I'm at my job, that's what I'm identifying with. It causes us an immense amount of frustration, Because if I'm working as an attorney and I'm coming home and my wife and kids want my attention, I can't be an attorney anymore. I have to be a father and husband. When I'm talking to my kids, I cannot be a husband. I have to be a father. So it's identification with a particular role that we have to give up. We have to give up the sense that we are this and nothing else. We have to also give up the sense that life is personal. That if it's raining, it's because Mother Nature hates me and doesn't want me to go out and play softball. We have to get over those kinds of ideas. We have to stop identifying with conditioned things as if they were real. They were us and we are them. They are mine. Anybody here own a car? Bullshit. Put your hands down. Nobody owns a car. We're all using cars. If you owned a car, that means that you would have power over it, and that means it would never run out of gas, never break down, you'd never have to change a light bulb because you have that kind of power over it. You don't own it. What happens is it does run out of gas, so you have to feed it. Who owns whom? Anybody have a laptop? Do you own it? Does it crash? Then you don't own it. Nobody wants their laptop to crash. So, what you are doing is you are borrowing it from the universe. Sometimes the universe wants compensation. So let's say we're renting it from the universe. Yeah. Anyway, so the skillful means. Now, what happens in the Lotus Sutra is what we find out and what we see is the follower disciple may attain realizations. The self-made Buddha attains a certain amount, a certain kind of realizations. But they cannot become a Buddha until they enter into the Bodhisattva path. What makes the Bodhisattva path different from these other two paths? The difference is that you are practicing, that you are studying, that you are doing things in order to help others. You're practicing to become a Buddha, and your becoming a Buddha will have a profound impact on everybody around you. When you get to that stage where wisdom and compassion are more important to you than you're struggling through your own petty little problems, then you're on the Bodhisattva path. Right. Now, do you get that if you are wavering in your choices? What school to get into, what teacher to find, what lineage is important, what practices are important? No. Because another thing that you have to give up with just to get onto the stream is doubt. We have to give up doubt. Doubt in the practice. I know the practice works. Oh my goodness, there is an entire 2,500 year history. Actually, it's about 10,000 years. But there's this incredible history of success in the meditation, in the techniques, and the devices that the Buddha gave us. They're all upaya, skillful devices, meaningful devices that'll help us become enlightened. And yes, I have faith in that. I just don't have faith in me. Because I can't do it. I can't become a Superman and do all this. And oh, I'm so sad because I'm not strong enough. You know how many times I hear that a week? I hear that story every week. And it's not about faith in the Dharma. It's about faith in yourself, that you have the ability, the quality, the capacity to practice, to become more compassionate, to become wiser, to be a benefit to others, that you actually have a motivation to become a Buddha for the benefit of others. We'll get to that others thing here in a second. The third thing that we have to get rid of, that's this many. 1, 2, 3, is reliance on ritual. Reliance on ritual. Rituals have never saved anybody. Seriously. Rituals are not for salvation purposes. The rituals exist so that we can condition the mind so it can enter into nirvana and the enlightened state. This is the purpose of rituals. You know what? You don't really need them, because you can get the same thing by sitting in meditation, by chanting Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu 100 billion times. You can get all that. You don't need the rituals. The rituals are a crutch. That's what they are. They're a crutch to remind us of the teachings. They're a crutch to remind us of what we can attain. That's the important thing about rituals. In Asia, and this is one of the reasons why Asian Buddhists are concerned about us as Westerners. Asian Buddhists are very, very concerned with deep listening, with practice, as in meditation and recitation. They're interested in study. In the West, we're interested in ritual, as if that's the key to unlock the door to enlightenment. That was the third thing you have to get up just to get onto the stream. You've got to give up. Self-doubt, you've got to give up. What was that first one? Something about not taking things personally. You have to give up self-identification views. You have to give up reliance on ritual. Without doing this, you're in trouble. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be spinning your wheels for the rest of this lifetime on into the next. This is called the Sotopanna, the entering into the path of enlightenment, the stream. It was called. Now you're going to be swimming in the stream instead of sitting on the banks watching it. The stream, swimming across the stream to get to the other side. You have to do those three things. What does that guarantee you? It guarantees you that you'll only be reborn 7 times. Don't believe in reincarnation? Good. Neither did the Buddha. Buddha never taught reincarnation. He taught rebirth, and that's a whole different ball of wax. And we're going to have an entire workshop on that one day, on the difference between reincarnation and rebirth and why the difference is important. So if we can enter into the stream, we have become a bodhisattva. Why have we become a bodhisattva? Because in giving up self-views, we now identify with everything. So, what about this benefiting other people, benefiting others? whether it's a person, a cat, a mouse, a squirrel, a snake, a spider, benefiting other beings. Where do those other beings reside? They do not reside out there. They reside in the world. Where is the world? This body and the 6 senses that attend to it. So somebody will tell me, oh, but it's so hard to give up self-view. No, it's not. I'm sorry. But adherence to self-view is one of the easiest things in the world to relinquish, to let go of. The reason you're not letting go of it is because you do not understand the 5 aggregates, how they work. And in not understanding the 5 aggregates, you are not realizing and actualizing emptiness. You're not utilizing the not-self strategy. And so you think you're real the way you think of yourself. But you don't exist the way you think of yourself. You only experience yourself the way you think of yourself. Now, experience is interesting. At the time that you have an experience, it seems abundantly real, and it is, as far as your karma is concerned. But is it real? Not in the great scheme of things, no. But it's real as far as your karma is concerned. It becomes real. That is your reality in the moment. And that moment that you are experiencing anything is real. It becomes part of the stream of consciousness. It becomes part of your constant rebirths into samsara. It's true. No, we're not going to be doing the rebirth workshop yet. All right, so where does that bring us? Get out my notes again. Because I did not bring a copy of the Lotus Sutra with me today. In Hongaku, and Hongaku is fascinating because it is a lineage within Tendai that was sort of at odds with Tendai. And it later on became absorbed, but there's a very, very strong Hongaku lineage within Tendai that has not separated itself into a different lineage, but remains firmly entrenched within it. So it's one of the 46, 48 lineages of Tendai, but it's found in almost every lineage of Tendai. It's kind of interesting. It's sort of like what happened with the Kadampa lineage in Tibet. All other lineages absorbed it. So Kadampa as an entity disappeared. Yet the Kadampa teachings influence all of Tibetan Buddhism. And Hongaku did something very similar. The first thing Hongaku does is it looks at the meaning of being. What is a being? We talk about sentient beings all the time. Sentient beings is more about being sentient. It is being is existence itself. We're not talking about personality. We're talking about that which exists. That is a being. Why is it a being? Because that's what it does. It is being. It is B-I, or B-E-I-N-G. Be-ing. To be. Being. So when Hongaku talks about being, It's talking about existence itself, not about particular existences. In Hongaku, like in the Pali Canon, existence is an event within an event, which is within another event. It's the event within the event. Being, there are all kinds of beings right here, right now. There's being glasses, there's being itchy nose, there's being a watch, there's being a Buddha, there's being people, there's being a Norfolk pine, there's being a Chenra Zig, there's being an Avalokiteshvara, there's being a Shakyamuni Ajari, there's being whoever you are. There's being all over the place. A sentient being is the one that we are creating here. So we think in this room right now there are X number of sentient beings. And there are an infinite number of sentient beings in this room, all of whom need to be benefited. How do we benefit them? By not attaching or being averse to them. That's how we benefit other beings. It is total equanimity toward whatever is arising in our mind, about whatever is arising in our mind. So the Hongaku vision begins with the starting point is the individual as they are right here, right now, at this moment. Now, a few weeks ago we talked about the 10 interpenetrating realms. At this moment you might be a hell being, that is, being in hell. You might be a ghost being, that is, being craving. You might be in the animal realm, that is, being fearful, being passionate about fulfilling your desires. But you also might be being Buddha, enlightened at this moment. So we have these penetrating things going on, these 10 penetrating realms. But you only experience the realm as you conceive of it. But that realm doesn't exist the way you are conceiving of it. And this is one of the major points of the Lotus Sutra. Very, very fascinating. Because its premise is the truth is here and it is now. One of the truths about it, I'm going to read this right here. To lead a life in which we are inspired and can inspire others, our hearts have to be alive. They have to be filled with passion and enthusiasm. To achieve that, we need the courage to live true to ourselves, rather than borrowing from or imitating others. We need the conviction to be able to think for ourselves and to take action out of our own sense of responsibility. What the gentleman just said, I only know his last name. In order to give him justice, I would have to know his first name as well. His name is Ikeda, by the way, Japanese fellow. He has described what happens when you let go of, that is, renounce, renunciate, relinquish, self-views, doubt, and reliance on rituals. What is it that you're supposed to take refuge in? Last words of the Buddha, found in the Dhammapada as well. Make yourself your own refuge. Make an island of yourself. We can't make ourselves our own refuge if we're constantly taking refuge in other things. Taking refuge in things we identify with. For some people, that's alcoholism. For some people, that's drug addiction. Oh, I don't like the mood I'm in, so I'm going to go get loaded tonight. For some people, it's sex. For some people, it's intellectual ideas. For some people, it's food. For some people, it's their significant others, and they develop codependent relationships because they want to take refuge in somebody else. Self-identity view, doubt in ourselves, reliance on rituals. Could be as simple as the ritual of opening up a six-pack, the ritual of driving drunk, the ritual of taking a pill just because I don't like the mood I'm in. These are things we have to let go of. By looking at what it is we are taking refuge in. Looking at where there is self-doubt. Looking at what it is we identify with. This is how we change our destiny. We don't change it by opening up a tarot deck. We don't change it by gazing into a crystal ball. We don't change it by finding some new exotic hallucinogenic drug. We change our destiny through self-examination and reliance on our ability to negotiate with our karma. Because in the end, that's all we are, is the result of our karma. Everything we have ever done, everything we have ever said, everything we have ever thought. That's a heavy load. That's why Mr. Ikeda ends his quote with the word responsibility. The ability to respond. We can't respond if we're relying on somebody else. Who is it that you are taking refuge in? What is it that you're taking refuge in? Where are your self-doubts? What is it that you're identifying with? What is it that you wish to make yours? These are all good starting points. Good ending point, too. Thank you.